Lisa Frankenstein is directed by Zelda Williams, and it's written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Jennifer's Body, which I will always defend. And this film is described as a coming-of-rage love story about a teenager and her crush who happens to be a corpse. After a set of horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. The film stars Kathryn Newton as Lisa, a girl who's in high school in the 1980s going through a bit of a past trauma issue, who also just so happens to really like going to the graveyard and accidentally falling in love with very well-carved busts of dead people. The title of the movie is a bit of a combination of Lisa Frank, which is a very well-known and colorful design company that offers all different types of things from stickers to clothing. The main character's name is Lisa, but of course Frankenstein being that you've got a corpse who's missing some body parts that have to be reassembled. What struck me most about this movie is that you could go and play the compare game, which I think everyone tries to do. You always try to find a way to explain what a movie is to people who want to know what it's like, usually by referencing other movies. And you could say that it feels very Tim Burton-esque. You could say that it feels a little bit like Heathers, maybe a little bit of Edward Scissorhands, even though he's more of an automaton and this guy is like a former person who would like to live again. Different things are happening there, but the look and the feel, sure. To me, the best way that I can describe this is to say that it's a filmmaker who's putting her heart and soul into a movie and sharing it with us, all the darkness, all the pain, all the funny random shit, and boxing that into a very weird and obscure movie that will absolutely gain a cult following and become a sleepover movie without a doubt. All that is to say that this is a Zelda Williams movie. This is a new filmmaker who's obviously had a lot of exposure to the industry in the past, who now has a chance to make one of her own, and she's made something that feels distinctly her and unique. And I feel like that's what critics are always asking for. You always want new, fresh visions, and you want to see something that feels like an artist is just making a movie studio be damned. And that's what I felt when I was watching Lisa Frankenstein. It really didn't feel like any film that I've seen recently, in that the film embraces camp in a way that I haven't seen a movie do for a very long time. Things that most movies would feel the need to explain, like how did our corpse come back to life? This movie is like, well, there was an electrical storm. I mean, have you seen Friday the 13th, Jason Lives? We accept it in that form, so we can accept it here. That's what I think I like the most about this movie, in that it was very earnest and sincere. It was 100% what the movie is, and it never steps back and makes excuses for being that. The movie makes no excuses for Kathryn Newton's character Lisa not having a genuine breakdown when a corpse is walking around her house for the first time. When she sort of realizes who it is, she kind of just embraces his presence and invites him up to her room, which is exactly what a lot of kids did in the 80s and 90s when somebody new came over. Hey man, do you want to go see my room? Because I guess that's like where all the cool shit is, right? And our parents aren't there. But Kathryn Newton also strikes a really good balance here between telling jokes to get a laugh and naturally inhabiting a character that is so unique and that is so off the wall, sometimes high-strung, has very genuine violent tendencies and will enact upon them, but also just kind of likes a boy at school and is okay with that. And that's one of the things I really like about Diablo Cody's writing, especially with Jennifer's Body, in that both of these films feature female characters that do violent things and don't necessarily make any excuses for them, nor do they feel like they have to. And there are tons of movies in which our protagonist decides to do violent things because they've had a warped life or something has led them down this path. Sometimes it's taken much more seriously, like a Taxi Driver or a Joker, and other times it's played for laughs, like in Lisa Frankenstein. And I will also say, and I'm happy to say this is actually a very hard PG-13. I haven't seen a movie that felt like it was almost R, or maybe even should be R, for a while. And it's actually crazy how just very simple cuts will get you the PG-13. And that's just another element that felt like it was pushing back against the mainstream expectations for what a film like this should be, and that it didn't necessarily care about the fact that it had some gore or it had some implications for various things that happen later in the movie I don't want to spoil, but it also wasn't afraid to have slow-mo sequences where REO Speedwagon or other 80s bands are playing in the background. And it just really felt to me that Williams made her movie regardless of what anyone else thought, And I really do think that this will find a huge audience in the future, just like Jennifer's Body did. Probably generated through a lot of sleepovers in which you watch a movie that maybe your parents don't necessarily want you to see. And I really mean this when I say it. This did not feel like Focus Features was holding Williams back in any way or saying you have to do this or you have to do that. It didn't feel like a studio movie, even though it was made for a fair amount of money. I also really liked Cole Sprouse as this corpse. I thought he was very good with a lot of silent mannerisms. He has a lot of opportunities to do great silent acting, which is very fascinating for me. I've always loved seeing actors who eliminate dialogue from their roles as much as possible and do everything with their mannerisms, and he was great in the movie. So I do think you guys should check this one out if you want to be on top of what I think will eventually become a cult favorite. And I'm very curious to see what else Zelda Williams does, because if you watch any interviews with her, she clearly has an encyclopedic knowledge of horror. And that's very exciting because it's her genre and she's wanting to be a part of it. And I think she'll be a directorial voice that we hear a lot more of in the future. So guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more videos very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.